No, I'm filming now though.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Alright, Emily
Yes?
is going to finish up. Jesse, if you can scoot out of the way.
Do you mind if I erase this?
No, please go ahead. Okay, include the students as well. Alright, so this will continue the list of theater etiquette and anything else about just certain rehearsal etiquette that you had on your list.
We still have our list?
Don't enter while somebody else is performing.
Don't interrupt, don't disrupt while someone else is performing.
That goes with the distraction.
Don't mess up. Pretty much covers everything.
I am sorry about walking in.
That's okay. What about mouthing the words
Oh my
while
god.
somebody else is
I
doing
never
their
did
line?
That annoys the
I
crap out of
was
me.
trying to help.
Okay, Emily, you're going to say, I'm going to the store.
I'm going to the store.
And then we're going to go get ice cream.
And then we're going to go get ice cream.
And then we're going to go to the mall.
And then we are going to go to the mall.
How annoying.
That is the absolute first moment that anyone knows that you are not, that you don't have much training as an actor, truly.
You're listening.
You are listening, but what you are doing is you are marking space in your brain where your script is, because you're not really listening, you're just regurgitating, right? And I mean, truly, that is one of those things that if you do that, you need to stop it now, quickly. And think about listening to what they're saying. And know your script well enough that you ought to be able to come back to it and say, okay, now what's the story? That I don't have to regurgitate it, but that I can simply respond with it, right? Okay. What about displays of anger? Manage anger, okay?
Save the drama.
Save the drama for the stage.
Save
Save the drama for your mama. Okay. What about appearing in costume and
Get out of your
makeup up?
costume before you talk to anybody.
Okay.
It's so unprofessional to walk out in all your stage makeup and like.
Oh, they do that so often in different theaters.
It makes me
They
so
do,
confused.
and it's sort of like the dance recital where the little girls in red lipstick come out, you know.
Hey, we did that at my school. It was fun.
But really, what are you doing when you go out in your costume and your makeup?
You're breaking the story.
Breaking the fourth wall. What else?
Getting rid of the suspension of
always do
disbelief.
that.
Yes, you are absolutely breaking the suspension of disbelief. Yeah.
always do that.
Yeah.
And theoretically, you shouldn't. I mean, well, because what you're doing is does it save time? Yes. But on the other hand, you know, if you were in a professional theater, you don't do that. Okay, Rebecca?
At this TBS show I saw that was like really depressing and about like 9/11.
9/11?
Yeah, and people like trapped in like the buildings and it was so depressing. And like one of this guys had this terrible makeup all over his face, just like all bloody and gross. And then at the end of the show he came out and he's like, look at my makeup.
Yeah.
And that ruined it.
It
And I was
does
like,
ruin it. It really does.
depressing.
Okay, what about, okay, Alex, what else?
Don't look down on other people for their roles.
For their roles?
Yeah, like don't brag about how extensive yours is.
Yeah,
Be
gloating.
modest.
Yeah, being modest. You know what? I will tell you something. Humility goes a long, long, long way.
It can even go further than talent.
It can go further than talent. Absolutely, it can. Because you know, I think I've said this to some of y'all before. You don't have to be the prettiest person in the room. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the most talented person in the room. But you have to have common sense and good manners, and you will go through your entire life. And you will be a success. Because most people don't have common sense or good manners. And that's what etiquette is about. You know, it's knowing how to do the right thing at the right time. Sort of like when you go sit at the table and you know which fork to use, you know. And it doesn't make you look like a buffoon when you get the dessert fork instead of the salad fork. You do.
There's the length of the forks is the
Well, you
bigger
start from the
length.
outside and go in.
How can you
Oh.
just like automatically reach for the dessert fork? Because it's like right there.
But if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that you don't know, you don't
The
know that you
salad
don't know.
forks small,
I
the
don't
milk
know.
forks big.
But I don't know.
The what fork?
What do we know that you don't know?
The
The one
What
that-
about, how about confusing acting with living?
Salad fork.
Like if you're always performing.
Well, you could, it's either about method acting, or if you integrate your problems into everything that's going on, if you bring your personal life to your performances, and if you then become the actor and, you know, the drama, pardon me, off the stage, or on the stage goes off the stage.
I know.
Separate your character from you.
Separate you from your
Separate
character.
your lives.
Think about Heath Ledger.
Yeah, he did not separate his life.
I'm pretty sure that, I think the Imaginarium, Dr. Parnassus,
Who's that?
his last movie
Yeah.
that he died while filming, his character is supposed to be this, like, wild and over the top, more than the Joker. It's just the whole thing. I think that's one of the reasons why.
He locked himself in a room for 3 days without food or water or contact with people to be able to film that movie.
Why?
Because he wanted to have a character study. That was his
Ew.
character
Is
study.
this character crazy?
Yes.
Oh.
And he was living the role, and Heath Ledger.
Oh.
And therein is the discussion here. You know, don't confuse who you are with the actor. That's why when I tell you that you have permission to do whatever it is that you are doing in the auspices of a role. You are not that person. So, you know, if the character is called for to be drunk, or the character is called for to be insane, or the character is called for to take their dress and pull it up over their head, you know, like a 3-year-old, or any number of other things, you are not that person. And so you really should be able to separate who you are out of who the character is. Rebecca?
Like, what about, in this one movie, Ellen Page had to play a character who by the end of the movie was completely emaciated,
Yeah.
so she had to, like, starve herself to get to that point. Like, wouldn't that kind of blur those lines?
Well, it is going to, and that, you know, that gets down to method acting, and also gets down to filmmaking. You know, Tom Hanks lost lots and lots of weight for
They-
Philadelphia.
And also for Castaway, they stopped filming for 8 months so he could lose weight.
Right. But that's also your job.
It's like Tropic Thunder.
You know, that's what I'm talking about with...
An American Fan.
What I'm talking about, though, is that, like, you know, let's say that your character is supposed to be, is supposed to have an English accent.
Thunder.
You know, that's what I'm talking about with,
An American Fan.
what I'm talking about, though, is that, like, you know, let's say that your character is supposed to be, is supposed to have an English accent.
And you
So,
walk around for the next 3
yes,
weeks.
for the next 3 weeks, everywhere you go, you're speaking with an English accent. And it becomes quite annoying after a while because you're speaking with an English accent. You know, and so, you know, where do you draw that line of what's reality, what's not reality?
Stop practicing.
Right, because there's a moment when you have to be you know, or let's say that you have to be a jerk. Character. And so, you know, you're a jerk to everybody
Hugh
around
Laurie
you.
amazes me in that aspect because when he plays House, he is the biggest butt ever.
Yeah.
And then
In real life,
and
he's
then
one
he
nice
goes
person.
and speaks in his British accent and plays
British?
Yeah, he is
He
British.
is.
And
Who
I
was
heard that he's
Dad's
very,
Who was
very
Stuart
kind.
Little's dad?
He's a great person and he writes music.
He was
and
the
plays piano.
he was the dad on Stuart Little.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you would.
Alex?
For go back to the method acting thing, when Robin Williams was filming Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yes?
he went out in full makeup and nobody could tell who it was. And I think he did that
Tyra Banks.
for a little while, for a few days, just to like the English accent thing. He did the entire character.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I think that it's easy for us to say, you know, what's the difference between Hollywood and us? I think that when theater people are neurotic enough. You know we don't need to add more neuroses to your bag of tricks. You do have to understand how you're going to find those character places, but you also have to understand that you have to return back to who you are. And I think it's more important for you to know who you are than it is to try to take on a role. You know, I mean, a lot of times there are people who become fabulous actors because they want to be anybody and everybody, and they want to please anybody and everybody. But are they happy? Typically not. Okay, what about if a prop accidentally falls on the floor?
Pick it up.
Pick it up!
Or replace the cup that you broke. What?
Yeah, yeah. Replace that cup that you broke. What? Or when we went to UIL last year and the gang from they knocked over exactly one of their big columns, and they
Make it
just
part of the show to pick it up.
They
You
left
can't
it.
just leave it.
They left it.
Left the
They
column.
left the column. It was like, oh my! And on top of that, the accents were not what they could have been. And
You ever seen Estacado?
huh?
You ever seen Estacado?
No,
Good.
no. What about peeking through the main curtain?
Never,
Oh my God.
never
Right.
peek through any curtains. Don't
Do you
touch
do
the
that?
curtains.
Yes.
Distracts me.
If the audience
All
can
the
see
time.
you,
We have
No,
holes
if
in
you can
our
see the audience,
We
they
we
can
had
see
holes in our
you.
curtains, and before we pinned them up, like we would just stick our heads through them.
It is the most distracting thing. Here's the bottom line. If you can see the audience,
Yeah.
The audience
They can see you.
And don't touch the curtains. 'Cause
Yeah,
then it shakes.
absolutely.
And
Oh my
they're
gosh,
like,
that's so
oh,
annoying.
absolutely.
They're shaking the curtain.
All right. What about keeping up your grades?
Absolutely.
Study.
Yes.
You have to study.
You know what? Theater departments are all, or actually any high school or college rather, is happy to get theater people because you know how to manage your time well. You know how to keep your grades up if you're in a show, theoretically. You know how to work as ensemble people, you know. So I think all of those things really help you as a performer, but also just as a human being. You know, you learn about life through theater, really. Okay, what you touched on it a minute ago, somebody did, about gloating versus accepting praise graciously. You know, you're right. I mean, it's, okay, I know, it's time to go. And then I think the last thing is studying your lines on and off stage. Where are you supposed to do your work?
Off stage. Hang on.
At home. Do your homework first. Come prepared. Okay? All right, guys. We'll pick it up tomorrow. See ya.
Her mouth is huge.
She suddenly could sing.
Yeah.
Oh no, Maria from West Side Story can sing.
Suspension of disbelief. All right.
Like, the A's in her mouth got really, really big, but then she was doing
I. Yeah. Well, it becomes the A.
right and
I
fine.
with the A-E
Right.
diphthong, right?
Ray.
Yeah. Right.
Ray.
Fine.
Space nine.
Right. Right. All right. What else did you notice?
Bet.
He called her wilted cabbage. It's ridiculous.
Squashed.
Squash cabbage.
I don't understand
He was
what
writing
he
it
was
the night.
writing.
He was
Yeah,
writing an
Yeah.
IPA.
I thought it was IPA.
It was all IPA
That
in
was
his
not, that's
notebook.
not, those aren't the characters you taught us.
Well, but
Yeah.
It's evolved.
It's an advanced
I mean, I'm sure
IPA.
he was using some semblance of it. Semblance.
now.
Okay.
When he had the with the flame thing, he had to pronounce the H, whereas I thought when we were reading the H, we were not supposed to say.
But what he said was that she pronounced the H's in the wrong spot.
Oh, like hever.
Right. And often and
Hotfoot.
Otford,
And Hotfoot, Hereford, and
Hereford, and
Hampshire.
Hampshire, Erkens, Hever, Appen. Appen. I can't get it right now. Not Hereford and
Hoppin.
Hampshire.
Atticans, oddly.
Hampshire.
Okay,
Happen.
Erkins.
Red.
Erkens,
Red.
Oddly, Hever,
Happen.
Appen. Yeah, yeah. So, you know, you have to consider the three of you separate if you can't behave.
You made a weird noise.
I know. You know, you have to consider every word and what the sounds are, right? Because when you start getting, again, it becomes very dialectical as to how those sounds are produced. And as he said, he could get within 2 miles or 2 blocks of each particular region of London, which is amazing. You know, the longer I think that we live in a metropolitan community, the more homogenized our accents are. So that's why when you're in a big town, you don't hear those sort of things that we hear in rural areas. You know? And so the accents tend to go away a little bit. Plus, I mean, I think the point of the movie was that education also, enables one to speak more properly. What else did you glean from this? What about the father?
Doesn't care about his daughter.
He was basically the same dialect as her.
Yeah. So basically, it goes from parent to parent, child.
Well, so she grew up around.
Yeah.
He was talking about how he was like the lowest of the low and the poorest of the
It's
poor.
what you're surrounded by.
So that was
what
like-
you learn.
It is what you're surrounded by. But okay, what about this? All right, let's say children who are raised in our culture with Hispanic families, and yet they have no Hispanic accent. Been taken out of their environment, put in school. They've been exposed to different sounds, right? And so they're able to lose some of that accent. What are some other examples, though, that you can think where it works the opposite way?
Where you pick up what they say?
It's like when I went to Wisconsin and I almost started talking like that.
Oh.
When you're living in Wisconsin, and you
Or the
eat some cheese.
Brooklyn.
Ketchup.
Yeah, ketchup and pie. And you see your grandma and grandpa up there. Yeah, I know. Alex?
Jodie Foster can speak fluent French, but in an actual French accent, so like a believable, like, French accent. And why are you recording? Okay, I'm sorry. And it's because she spent more than 20 years on and off there. I think that even if you're not born there, if you live there long enough, you can develop an accent.
My friend Jennifer moved to New Zealand for an exchange student program, so she went to college in New Zealand. She came back and she had this accent. It was like, oh, it's so fake. Like you become acclimated. Is that the word? Acclimated?
Yeah.
To it's a vocab word to where you live, and like my dad speaks a little bit of Texan now, and he's from Pennsylvania, so he still says yens sometimes. So he's like, what are you talking about?
Well, think about how we all use y'all.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a word. It's a contraction.
it is a contraction.
You all.
You
Because
all.
just the reaction other
Yes,
states
it's
give it
Stop
is
saying you're wrong, Alex.
not even like
You guys.
credible.
Yeah, because otherwise you get you guys or yous or
Yens.
yens. Is that what it
Bastard
says?
is
Yens. I've never heard that.
It's
It's
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's
You.
my family there. I went there. They say that a lot. They say it like we say y'all.
Yeah.
Ew.
Do you think because we say y'all, it makes us sound uneducated?
Yes. No.
You don't.
We're why, JC? Why don't you think so?
Well, because I'm so used to it, and I just don't think it's wrong.
All right, if you went to New York and said y'all, what do y'all think? What do you think would happen?
See,
I don't say it because my dad's from New York and my mom's from Chicago, so it's just like it doesn't come out of my mouth because I go to New York and Chicago so often, and they like do not accept that as being a credible word.
It was my curiosity.
There.
Well, do you think that they don't accept it, or do you think they just chide us for it?
If I was there, they wouldn't. Yeah, they would probably. I would get a response that wasn't in response to what I was trying to
But
get.
it's also like when I sometimes say W. instead of W.
W.
Miss Maddox even says W.
My mom is from North
W.
Carolina and
W.
like deep South Texas, so she says like patio instead of patio. Just so weird to me.
Patio.
Okay, how do you all say the word P-E-C-A-N?
Pecan.
Pecan.
It's not
Oh,
pecan.
pecan.
I say pecan. There is no, it's no pecan. There is no such word. People either say pecan or pecan.
Or caramel or caramel.
Caramel. Caramel.
Caramel. It is
Caramel.
It is caramel. Caramel.
I think it depends on, from whence you hail. It can be caramel, it can be caramel, it can be caramel.
Caramel.
Caramel is though in California. Caramel.
Caramel.
Were you surprised to see Higgins writing in IPA?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, a little
Had you
bit.
ever noticed that before? Yeah.
No.
This is the first time I've seen it.
Really?
It's the first
Yeah.
time I've seen it.
Really?
I haven't seen this movie since I was like 10.
Nobody was laughing.
Yeah.
It's my dad's favorite movie ever, so I've seen it.
And what do you think that he was trying to accomplish with having her repeating the vowels? I mean, he was giving her no true instruction on correction.
I think he wanted her to like hear it,
Yeah.
actually hear it come out of her mouth.
Yeah.
You're
Jones, where's the My Fair Lady poster?
Millie, Bride, Sing in the Rain, Kiss Me Kate.
Guys and dolls.
Oh, you know what? It broke. It broke. It fell off
I
the
remember that.
wall, and I
It's
haven't
right
had it.
there.
Yeah, I haven't had it repaired. Yeah.
3.8.
Okay, so did you pick up any one particular sound that you had not heard before for the Cockney accent?
The O.
A little bit.
Oh,
Yeah, the O.
Yeah.
Okay, stop just a minute. Alex, what sound?
Whenever she's saying A-E-I-O-U, she says like I-A-I-O. O-W.
Well, do you hear all the
Don't you say it?
diphthongs in that?
Just like you.
It's I-A-E, which would be like night, like we spell night with the N-A-I, right? I-O, you, right? A-E-I-O,
Yeah, her
you.
U was like she's like I-A-I-O-U.
But the U had the ya sound before it, like newspaper. So she would say you, with the inflection there, that little.
Paper. Newspaper.
And what about, all right, what about cup of tea?
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea. Now
Cup.
of tea.
How about when Alfred comes in and says, give me a fiver?
Fiver.
Fiver.
Yeah,
What was a
fiver.
fiver?
A five. Saying like father.
Favor.
No, it was a £5 bill.
Fiver.
A fiver. But it sounded like he was saying, give me a favor.
Fiver. Give me a fiver.
Give me a father.
Give
You
me
thought he
a
was saying father?
It's what it sounds like the upper class British accent saying
Father.
father. Give me a father. It's the same thing as fiver.
How would the upper class say that?
A fiver?
Fiver.
Fiver.
Fiver. Fiver.
But you're still doing
Fiver.
more of a diphthong in there instead of not fiver, fiver.
Fiver.
Because it's shorter,
Fiver.
you've got that I.
Fiver.
I. Yeah. All right. C'est time pour les lunch.